This is a story of a time that I was very, very scared in a share house in Kyoto, Japan. This is the first night I actually moved into a share house in Kyoto, Japan. I heard screaming right when I was sleeping. I think it was in the middle of the night around like 3 or 4 a.m. And I heard a guy's voice, very, very angry, just yelling and screaming, and there was some thumping and hitting of, I don't know, like a wall or something. But because I was half asleep, I was like, a part of me was shocked. I was like, what's happening? You know, like I get up a little abruptly and I'm like unable to really focus, but I also feel scared because of how loud it was. It was so loud. And then I hear other screaming from, I believe it was a girl's voice. So screaming from a guy, screaming from a girl, and then just more screaming after that, and some arguing, and maybe some crying, and then some doors opening. And I'm just like, actually the first thought I had was like, holy crap, what's happening? Has someone like broken into the house? Like, what's going on? Like, am I about to die? Like, I honestly had those thoughts because, you know, when you get jolted awake, you're kind of like, you feel kind of dumb. Like you can't think properly. So part of me was like, okay, I'm just gonna stay here in my bed and, you know, try to stay calm. And I ended up falling asleep again is what happened. But the next morning when I woke up, I heard some groaning outside of the hallway. It was pretty loud, and it was just a constant walk back and forth in the hall. You know, this is a share house, it's pretty small, and the walls are kind of thin, so you can somewhat hear like the person talking if they were next to you in the next room. So I hear groaning, and he's just walking back and forth between the hall. It's pretty small, maybe like, I'd say less than like 20 feet across, and just groaning and groaning. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? I have no idea. I feel scared. I remember what happened yesterday. And then I decide, okay, we can't just stay in our room. We have to go outside. So I grab my stuff. I'm getting ready to brush my teeth because I'm trying to act normal. Like, I look at my phone, nothing's going on. My friends inside the share house didn't say anything. So I go outside, brush my teeth. You know, everything looks okay. Actually, I waited until the groaning stopped to go outside. And then once I was brushing my teeth, this guy comes next to me, one of the housemates. I've met him before. And when I look at him, I see that there's a bandage around his head. And he's bleeding from his head, like all over, like the top. I see a lot of blood. And then I look over, I'm like, dude, are you okay? I asked him, and he's like, do I look okay? You know, he gives me that attitude too. And I was like, no, dude, you do not look okay. Like, what happened? Like, did you go to the hospital? Like, what's going on? And he tells me what happens. He said that he was out last night and a taxi hit him. So that's when I was like, oh my God, dude, like, did you get it checked out? Did you go to the hospital? And he was like, yes. And it's like, you know, what they say, are you gonna be okay? And he said he has a concussion, and you know, he just said that he felt a huge amount of pain and all that stuff. And he was very frustrated, very flustered, very, like, I can feel the energy from him. And, you know, I made the connections in my head. I was like, okay, the yelling was probably from him last night. So I'm like kind of cautious. I'm like, what's gonna happen? Because, you know, I don't want anything bad to happen. It's just my self-defensive reflexes, like alerting my brain, being like, yo, get out of this situation. Like, I don't know this person. Like, clearly they're bleeding from the head right now, and they're being kind of aggressive with their voice and the yelling last night. So I'm just like, okay, yeah, man, you might want to get that checked out again. And I just try to stay calm, keep brushing my teeth, keep doing my thing until like he's he starts walking away, and I'm like, okay, back to my room. But it was a very, very frightening experience, I'd say, overall, considering it was my first night sleeping in that share house. And I was just like, what is happening? And I ended up talking to some friends, and other people were like confused, but there were some people that knew what happened, and it was just like a dispute between people from the share house. Alcohol was involved, and yeah, that's as much as I'm going to mention. But either way, that was a very scary experience for me. I think most people are fine when they're not under the influence. So at the time, he wasn't. So I didn't. From then on, it was kind of an awkward interaction, but it became a safe space eventually. He seemed, honestly, outside of that encounter, he seemed like a very nice guy, and like I would have liked to have got to know him more and try to talk to him and everything. But because of that encounter, I felt really freaked out, basically, and we didn't really interact that much. But that was the story, and there's really no lesson from the story other than I don't know what I could have done differently. I don't know, I guess my worldview of what can possibly happen has expanded, because in a share house, there's so many different types of people, and yeah, it's just, I'm glad nobody got hurt at the very least, other than perhaps, the fact that or maybe not a fact, I don't know, I want to believe him, but it's kind of crazy to believe that he got hit by a taxi and nothing happened, I don't know, I just don't know, man, I seriously don't. I try not to think about it too much. It was a very frightening experience overall. But yeah, that's the story. Let's hope something like that doesn't ever happen again. Honestly, it's not that bad, but it was still shocking.